All right, good morning, everyone. Hope you all are doing well. Let's take a look and see what is going on with Bitcoin for the day. So, taking a look from last night, you can see that we've just basically straight just fallen through, right? A lot of these levels. I tried to long, it was around 59,880. I was in profit for a little bit and just got taken out. I was not going to ride that. So just took a small chance there, but it's very risky. I mean, we are in a very bearish environment, so any bounce that we're getting is just very short-lived, and it's not providing the strength that we would normally see, even in a more consolidation period. So very very bearish environment. As it stands right now, we are bouncing off of 58 to 20-ish area, which doesn't really have anything. I believe that was, if I remember correctly, I want to say it was like a 618 area that we had bounced off of before around this area, from a higher time frame perspective. But I don't personally trade 618s, nor do I trust them, because they're to me still not the full move. That's why I usually trade using the 786. And it also depends on where you pull it from, but I personally don't like to trade the 618 for that reason. So taking a look, you don't have too much of a wick to the upside. There's a lot of downside potential here. One thing that's a potential positive note is if we continue this move, through at least part of this week, today's obviously the last day of June. There's a potential that we could just make the wick for July, and then, obviously rip back up from there. There's a possibility. But we do have to see, like I said, tomorrow, the following day, basically the rest of the week needs to stay bearish, which is definitely possible in order for that to potentially happen. So, really 12-hour, 8-hour just is not looking good, right? Just 12-hour straight up down candle, not even a wick to the upside. Um, just making it look extremely bearish. The crazy thought part about it too, and I told you guys this morning in Sin City Crypto, but there's no real, entry, or there's no real retracement to have like a true, you know, a decent entry without chasing, right? If you were to go short. So I'm just waiting. I'm sitting on the sidelines. I'm being patient, just to see, where this price action is going to end. I do have a limit order, my next possible bounce at 57.3. So I'm going to try taking a shot there. Again, I have decreased the position size because it does not look like a very um, possible bounce environment. Let's just put it that way. It's the more and more that we're just kind of drooping over, we're not getting any sort of recovery. It's just making me less and less confident in bounce potential in this area. Um, so if we are going to get a bounce in this area, I do want to see a quick wick down, come back up, and then we go from there. Okay. Going into our 1 hour, yeah, I mean, we're getting a slight bounce off of 58. What was it? 58 254 around there. 58 200. It's just nothing until we get, I mean, we're just losing all of these levels that I have on my chart. We lost, within the past, hour even, we had lost 58,998, 59,000. We lost 58.6, not even a test there. And so, you have to assume that until we get back above here, it's just going to keep, sloping down basically. It's not going to have any sort of bounce until we get down into this area at least. If not, it's going to go further, and we'll talk about that. So, if this, for example, were to start dropping further, I want to put some more points on my chart here. So, you know, at least right now. So we have 57,292 as my low point. That's pulling from this wick. You would then technically pull from down here, I would say. You could say, okay, 54,143, which I believe would be around our value area low of our consolidation period. So I would say that would probably be the next spot. You lose 57, that 57.3 area, you're basically not, you don't really have anything until you drop down to here, and then you then take it from here. So then you're going 47,855. I mean, you can see how fast, these support levels can basically differ from each other. I mean, look at the distance between these support levels. So after 54, you basically the next 786 would be down to 48 practically. So that's like, a good $6,000 difference, right? So, um, yeah, it's just not looking great, guys. I'm gonna be honest with you. 46 would be our next one. I'm just gonna put some of these levels here so I have them. So I'm gonna just stop here probably. I would say absolute worst case scenario, you'd have to pull from this, and then if that doesn't hold at 39, then you're pulling all the way from the bottom. So then you're pulling down here, down to 29, 30-ish. Yeah. So we have to hope that we get a bounce sooner rather than later here. This is kind of what I'm targeting for now, so just kind of keep that in mind. We really don't have, after you lose 57, it starts getting real ugly. Then you go to 54, which is not too bad, but then if you lose that value area low, you just are going to start taking out all these zones over here, and this is going to get really, really bad. So, taking a look at our 15 here, let's go back into our small time frames. Let's see. So, I mean, decent, probably just coming up to meet the 21. You got to make sure that we hold the 58.613 area. I'm not willing to play this. This is just, there's nothing here. There's no model for me to play in this. So I just don't feel like stepping in and doing the chase mode or the gamble mode with this. This is just, there's no structure that I want to see here. So I'm gonna wait patiently. If the only way I'm going to get in would be, a possible short. If we get back and test like our weekly open right here, I might get into a short. We used it as resistance yesterday, so that could be a possibility. But until then, I'm not trading in here. Um, let's take a look and see what liquidity is showing us today. So let me zoom out here. All right, so when it comes to liquidity, let's see, we have our 4 hour we'll go to here. All right, so our 4 hour is showing that we have some, down to 57 like usual, 57, it ends around 57,000 even practically. So this green area, this more consolidated liquidity, yellow area, what if I zoom in, ends around 57,000 even. I'm gonna, front run it to 50, about 57.3 to 57.5. You do what you want with that information, not financial advice. Extremely high risk because you know the environment that we're in, right? I'm just trying to, instead of chasing the red candles down, I'm trying to see if we can get a small bounce. And I'll probably, lesson learned from yesterday, I'm probably going to take my profits even earlier because I was up for a bit of time, or at least move my stop loss up. But yeah, it's just not looking great. So that's what I'm seeing for the 4 hour. Target this 57 area. Um, if we do get a decent sized bounce, there's really nothing but I would say, testing out this 62 area, maybe taking out this top right here. So I know we've been talking about 62.1 through 62.3. That would be, on a larger time frame, I take profit if we get that strong reaction. I'm not expecting it to go that high. If anything, I would expect it to maybe run out this double top at the most, around 60,008. Um, so that's kind of what I'm expecting as far as, for right now goes. Let me go into the 1 hour and take a look here. See what we have. So the 1 hour getting a bounce off of the top of this green consolidation, or sorry, green liquidity area that's like more consolidated. Um, so we're getting a slight bounce off of there. Nothing major just yet. I would not trust that until, like I said, we get back up above some of these key levels. Again, we're not even really solidly getting above 58.6, so just take that with a grain of salt. So nothing really that I'm seeing that's great yet. 15 minute. So 15 minute. Yeah, nothing, it's kind of the same thing. We're getting a bounce off of this higher, liquidity area. You can see there's some at 61,000. So I would probably be taking profit here if we get a decent bounce. I am going to start now with my longs moving my stop up to, just to be on break even at least so I don't lose money. But yeah, it's just not promising. And you can see, like, even with when it comes to 25x, one decent sign is that, this liquidity does run out around 57,000 even, when it or 57,003. Um, so, you'd have to go and assume that we would start taking out the 10x if we drop below that. But the 25x, 50, and 10, and 100x basically get wiped out if we take out this whole block right here. So that's a decent sign that could provide some relief for a while. Um, Looking at Kiyotaka over here on the right, you can see that, this is our order book that usually aligns with liquidity. So you can see that we have a lot of major orders down to 57.3, and then it kind of, drops off until 55,500. So, a lot of this concentrated liquidity would get wiped out, and then we would possibly have a move back up, maybe even to, this is to 59.6, this says up to 60, so we're starting to build some orders above, but I would expect one last, drop down and then see if we can get back up. Um, so one other thing I wanted to show you guys would be our simple map. So going into trading different, um, go into the simple map here. All right, so, like we've been talking about on the smaller time frames, I mean, just not hardly any liquidity in the market. I mean, even for right now, nobody's really trying to test their luck with this long. I mean, look at this. This is just nothing hardly to the 58, even to 58, 140. Once you get to 58, 180, 140-ish, you start getting into the more of the millions. But until then, like nobody's 100xing hardly and chancing it. You do have some shorts to the upside, that there's some more short liquidity with 100x and with 50x, so that's a decent sign. Tells me that there could be a bridge back up at least to test 60,000 area, but you can see just how low volume everything is. It's just not, there's just not a lot of people trading like we've talked about. So looking at the swing trading environment, we're starting to get into, let's see, where are we at? Let me zoom in here. So we're at this little node right here, around 58,000, and you can see how close we are to getting into this bigger, pool of liquidity down here, and start wiping out more of these longs. So that ties in with this area right here. You can see that we could start, tearing out some of these longs here. Um, so this definitely makes more sense than moving back up because as you can see, moving up, there's just not a lot of liquidity until you get to, gosh, you really have to go far here. You'd have to get at least to, I'm trying to see where we could even match what's to the downside. You have to get even to like 82, it's just nothing. 83, um, it's just not a lot of incentive to move back up. I mean, especially when we're right here. So, but that being said, guys, I mean, they're not going to just basically what we say, give you a cookie and just start wiping all of this out. Like they're going to make it challenging to read the charts, for you to short it. I would say that if we were to, get back up here, in this 60,000 region, this could be a perfect opportunity to short, especially taking out like this double top right here or triple top right here. That could be a perfect opportunity to put in a short and then to write it down, if you have conviction. I mean, look at, you have it all the way down to 48 now, some bigger orders. So, um, that could be a perfect place to hold like a daily short up here and then to just write it down. If you were, bearish for July, basically, you'd have to be bearish for the month, but that would, technically give you that opportunity. So anyways, guys, that is what I'm seeing for this morning in the market. I hope you guys are doing well, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I will be giving you an update later on this evening. Take care. I will talk to you later.